Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 50 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. For over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yes, showing the world that at 50, 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Costa Rica, Dr. Ellen Albertson. Dr. Ellen is known as the Midlife Whisperer. Wow. Is a psychologist, nutrition expert, board certified health and wellness coach, mindful self-compassion teacher who helps women in midlife and beyond reclaim our energy, confidence, and purpose without hustle, shame, or starting over. A best-selling author and sought-after speaker, Dr. Ellen serves on the National Menopause Foundation's medical board and has been featured across major media. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Debra. It's great to be here. And I love that idea, this idea of just getting started. And that's definitely one of my pillars. When you put midlife in Google, it comes up as the wrong side of 40. And I think we're both here to say that midlife is the best time of life. It's definitely a reset, but I look at midlife and menopause as portals, not problems to be solved, and really a time of life to get to know who you truly are, love yourself, and just create an incredible next chapter. Of course, financial wealth and health is a huge piece of that.
Totally, totally. So you live between Costa Rica and Vermont's Champlain Islands. That seems ideal for me. With your partner Ken and your border collie Rosie. So why did you choose Costa Rica, and what do you love about Costa Rica?
Well, Costa Rica, I think, chose me. I was going to go to Florida for my 60th, and Hurricane Ian hit, and I'd always had it in the back of my mind. I'd seen it in influencers. I'm into yoga and wellness. So we went there for my 60th. We rented a car and we went all over the country and we fell in love like you. I mean, Costa Rica is a truly special country. The indigenous blood runs through. The local people are so sweet, so kind. This idea of pure vida, pure life
Totally.
runs through the country. It is truly the most amazing place I've ever been. So I fell in love with the people, the country, the nature. You've got the hat to prove it, right? And we met this dude the second day we were here on the beach who was an expat. And we never thought about like, oh yeah, Costa Rica, that's a place to live. We'd always thought, you do the snowbirding thing in Florida. Anyway, we took the name of his real estate agent. And when we finished going all over the country, having a blast, we went out with the real estate agent. And it's kind of like my man Ken always says, it's like when you look at puppies online, right? You're just going to look and you fall in love. Well, we found our puppy. Literally, this house called out to us. I am a 5-minute walk to a blue flag beach. So we walk to the Pacific every morning. We walk the Pacific. We swim in the ocean. I'm 20 minutes from the airport. And then this country is just so filled with nature. I mean, whether you want to see toucans, monkeys, scarlet macaws, you want to see a sloth, it really resets your soul. And it's been a huge gift to myself. And of course, a great investment because Costa Rica is doing incredibly well. When I talk to people who, moved here 20, 30 years ago, they're like, wow, the country has really changed. And it is incredibly safe. It's super easy, if you can fly right into either Liberia or San Jose. And so if you are listening and you're kind of thinking about, yeah, I want to go to Costa Rica, I want to check out those monkeys, do it.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, we are retreating in Costa Rica, March 5 through 12, and we are ecstatic about the itinerary. We're going to kind of lesser known places, which will really give us the sense and the feel of interworkings of Costa Rica, which is brought to us by Victoria, my dear friend, and she's lived there 24 years. So she's like giving us all these nooks and crannies, and it's going to be a complete retreat experience that is going to be completely well, how shall I say it? Retreating and also energizing ourselves physically, which I think takes down our resistance level around the topic of money, which some people have still, and allows us to, learn how to make money. So that's what the retreat's going to be like. But let's get back into Dr. Ellen. Let's talk about a little lesser known fact. that you started your professional life, I understand it, as a journalist writing for major women's and lifestyle magazines, Self, Good Housekeeping, and Better Homes and Gardens. And then later I realized that you were on television as a celebrity chef. So I mean, you just do not let a lot of grass grow. I'm just saying, Dr. Ellen, you just don't.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I talk to midlife women and I do something called a radiance assessment, I think that the one of the biggest issues that women face at midlife and beyond is not following your heart. I
Right.
think life has a way of showing up and showing you what to do. And like I was talking with one of my clients yesterday, I had done a radiance assessment with her, which is what I do with people initially. And she was like, "Why am I so stuck?" And I was like, because you're listening to your head instead of your heart. The mind is a fantastic servant, but a terrible master. And I think, again, like with this going to retreat, coming to Costa Rica, what happens is we get this idea, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. Or even when I was buying this house, my mind was going crazy. You can't do that. You're going to a foreign country. You don't know the language. Who goes to a country and buys a house? But my heart was like, buy the house. Same thing, in my early career, one thing led to another. My master's degree was in nutrition communication, so I learned all about how to communicate, how to write, how to be in front of screens. And then my former husband and I were the cooking couple. We were celebrity chefs, and then when we decided not to do that, that led me to being a personal fitness trainer. That led me to becoming a board certified health and wellness coach, and that led me to becoming a psychologist and finding mindful self compassion. So life has a way of showing up for you and cradling and holding you and showing you the way, but we second guess it. And so that's something I work with a lot with my clients is really mindset. We know what we want to do from our heart, or even our mind tells us how to go about doing it, and we don't do it. Helping them also a lot with fear. Fear is really the energy that contracts us and hold us back. When we're in fear, we don't listen to our intuition, right? We actually narrow everything. A lot of times when I'm talking to women, they're always like, "Dr. Ellen, can you help me lose weight?" Right? And it's not that they need to go on a diet. They need to stop the numbing out, because when you've got this fear, what happens is I'm feeling stress, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm sure you see this with people with money. I'm feeling anxiety about my money. Cortisol gets generated, and
Right.
cortisol is a stress hormone. It's fight and flight. Our mind goes offline. We feel uncomfortable. And so what we do is we want to go for the dopamine. We want to numb out. So we turn to screens. I mean, I'm a big Bridgerton's fan. I like, watching things occasionally, but we numb ourselves with screens, that glass of Chardonnay, that threesome with Ben and Jerry's, right? Because we're so uncomfortable. And then you put on top of that what's going on in the news. And so a lot of my job is to help to, untangle women and to connect with their hearts and their souls. Because I think one of the exciting things and the pressures at midlife is that we're running out of time.
That's right.
The
Yeah.
reality of midlife is that there is less time in front of us than behind us. But we're wiser and we have energy and we want to make a difference in the world. As the Dalai Lama says, the world is going to be saved by the Western woman. And he's talking to you. If you're listening,
Yeah.
he's talking to you. But if you're feeling stuck, that's why Deborah's here. That's why I'm here. Just you can go to my website, themidlifewhisperer.com. You can get a midlife radiance assessment totally for free, help you to do that untangling, to really listen to your heart and take those first steps. When we start moving forward, we feel really overwhelmed. We don't know what to do, but you only need to know the next step. And that's a
Right.
lot of what I do. And I also bring in what's called human design, which is really helping you understand your frequency, a little
Yes.
dose of self-compassion, because we all need to fall in love with ourselves, particularly at midlife. It's kind of a nice antidote for all that stress we're experiencing. So, yeah, that's a long-winded way how I got to this place, but everything has kind of brought me here organically. And I think that's one of the beauties of midlife is you arrive and you're like, gosh, I know the place for the first time. I feel so good in my skin.
Right there. Yeah. And I read that you felt like you were a caged tiger before you aligned your work with your authentic self as a journalist.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of it too was in my marriage that I allowed my former husband to really run the ship.
Okay.
And some of that running the ship wasn't being me. He wanted me to show up more like my 40-year-old self when I was my 50-year-old self, to do things like, coloring my hair, which I'm all for people doing what makes you feel good, but I wasn't able to show up as me. It's like I had this mask on and I'm all here I am telling women to be authentic, to feel good in your skin. And I felt like I wasn't showing up as my true self. So, I've done a lot of work in this area. And that's where I bring in this human design, which really gives you a blueprint of how you are designed to function in the world and how you can also raise your frequency. As we were talking about, off camera, we were talking about the importance of raising your vibration because it truly is an inside out world. When you feel good, you magnetize more things to feel good. When you feel worthy, when you feel good about yourself, when you feel financially, physically sound, you start to attract what is truly in your highest good. If you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel good about yourself, if you're criticizing yourself, putting yourself down, you're going to stay stuck in this sort of cortisol, stressful world. And, as we go through menopause, estrogen helps to mitigate some of that stress.
Right.
But as estrogen decreases, it gets harder and harder to feel good. And we need to find new strategies. I like to think of menopause and midlife as portals, not problems. Your body and your brain are resetting for that next chapter, that second adulthood, which we both know is absolutely marvelous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. You've done it beautifully as an intro, and your best-selling book, "Rock Your Midlife: 7 Steps to Transform Yourself and Make Your Next Chapter Your Best Chapter." You talk about wonderful things in your book, changing the structure of our brain by altering our thoughts and beliefs, creating a cascade of different actions and habits, and a new you will start to emerge by changing our stories and taking action. We become the women we've always wanted to be. By changing our thoughts, we manifest what we want in our life. And then you go on to this wonderful story about dandelions. Share it with us.
Yeah, dandelions are one of my metaphors for midlife. We think about the dandelion, it's a weed, but it's like so resilient. Every part of the dandelion is like edible. You can make like wine from the roots and you can use the leaves. And I thought about the dandelion because first of all, the white hair, right? So like we're getting wiser. But then, you think about blowing the dandelion, making wishes, manifesting, and then scattering all of those seeds. And so, our culture tells us, and I hear this from midlife women all the time, I feel so invisible, Dr. Ellen. Like, what do I do? I have this idea of this thing I want to do. I work with a lot of women who've been in the corporate setting, and then they've always wanted to do this other thing, like the client I talked to yesterday. She wants to start an herbal business, but she feels like, I don't know how to do that. It's scary, but like, those seeds that we have are part of what we're here to do, to spread that joy, to spread that peace, that love, those feelings. And my newest metaphor that I'm using that I love is actually the dragonfly.
I
And
see that. Let's
yeah,
talk about it. Let's talk
yeah.
about the
So
dragonfly.
we all know the butterfly metaphor, which is lovely. The butterfly, it kind of digests itself and it builds a shroud and then it's got to break free or it, won't survive. Butterflies are nice. I always say like butterflies are kind of for girls, but dragonflies, this is what happens with the dragonfly. The dragonfly spends 2 years as a nymph. It's like a fish. It's a very fierce predator. And then one evening, it climbs up a stalk of grass and it does a final molt. It breaks out of its shell and it pushes the water in its body into its wings. It unfurls its thorax and it flies away. It's like boom, instantaneously.
Oh,
And that's kind of how I feel like at midlife. And I'm actually starting a whole dragon flying academy where we can change on the dime. And that's where the mindset and the frequency shift happens. When you change your thoughts, you change your feelings, you change your beliefs, your actions, and you decide that this is who I am, this is what I want, and you make an intention to feel good, and then you take actions to do that. It's like the dragonfly, your exterior world can change on a dime.
yes.
And we always think that I have to change the external reality and then I'll feel good. So we chase all this stuff. But the dragonfly, it doesn't know how to be a dragonfly, right? It's like in midlife. We spend all of our first 40, 50 years being a certain way. And
Yes.
then we have this awakening and we realize, oh my God, this is like, who am I? Because you're a dragonfly now. You're not supposed to be in the water. And the dragonflies are amazing. It's like they have 360-degree vision. So they can literally like see where they're going before they get there. And that's where this human design piece comes in because it's your flight plan. They
Mm.
can move in any direction. They can have their wings, going in 4 different directions. They can control them separately. They're amazing creatures. And that's kind of my mantra for midlife is like, you are amazing.
Yes.
so many women are trying to like turn back the clock. I have to look like my 26-year-old self, or I have to like perform and act in a way, be a people pleaser and take care of everybody else. And I think we're both here to say, no, this is your time because menopause actually makes you selfish. Your brain changes. And you start thinking about like, how do I put my own oxygen mask on? What makes me happy? Who am I really? And what do I want to do? I was talking to another client the other day, and she's got an incredibly successful business, has made millions of dollars. But she's like, I don't have a legacy. I don't have kids. And like, what do I do? And that's what a lot of the work I work on for women who are like in their, mid 50s, early 60s, like they're not ready to retire. They're only getting started, but they want to do something big and bold, but they can only see like their next steps. And so that's like that's where the midlife whisperer comes in. It's like, I got you. I understand. I can help you figure it out. But the universe only allows us to see that next step because it's about building faith and trust and self-love. But the human design piece can really help you figure out your strategy, your authority, how to navigate this really juicy time period.
It's amazing. I mean, you describe dragonflying as science meets soul approach, blending evidence-based psychology, nourishing habits, nervous system support, human design, and intuitive healing. And you said a couple of sentences ago about intention, and I am so intention focused on us as mature women making our intention. Don't be caught up here in the how, get the intention, and that grounds us, right, from which we can spring forth, and the how will be made known to us. Now you talk in your book about 7 steps: knowing yourself, loving yourself, how to go from pooped to supercharged, love that, how to pre-program our brain so that we can be happier, clearer, and more creative, going from helpless to in charge. Oh my gosh, I love that, taking agency. Okay, I'm just opining. And rehabbing our relationships because as we grow, maybe sometimes our friends around us don't grow so much. And so there's a need for reassessment. And I really love your, breaking this out into 7 steps. But tell us, oh, 7, tapping into the enlightened life, moving from bottomed out emotionally to lifted up spiritually. Hello, amen, sister. Ellen, which step do most women skip that keeps them stuck?
I would say it's a self-love step. That's the
Yeah.
second step. If I had to write my book all over again, I would say you've got to love yourself. And it's interesting, women are always like, why is it so much easier to love someone else than myself? And this is the issue truly is when you do something stupid. Like I tell the story all the time. A couple of weeks ago, I made banana bread and I put in baking soda instead of flour. Yuck. And I've been a celebrity chef. I should know better. And I could have been like, oh my God, Ellen, that's so stupid. But I was like, I'm human. And so what happens is when we make a mistake, and I'm sure you see this when people make an investment, they lose some money and they get into fear, they beat themselves up. When we do something that we regret,
Yeah.
we get the cortisol goes up. And so we get into that fight and flight. And it's very hard for us to move into tend and befriend to ourselves. When we have a friend or, a family member and something's going on, it's like, oh, I can go love them. That's so easy. But when we screw up, we're in that fight and flight. And so you have to go to the self-compassion gym. And I was so fortunate to discover self-compassion because I was looking for something to help women with negative body image. That's another issue we haven't touched on yet where, we're at midlife and, the waist expands a little bit, even if we're doing all the things right and we start to get wrinkles and our hair gets gray and thinner and all of those things. And we're taught you got to be young to be acceptable. And so we beat our bodies up. So I wanted to find a modality that would help women with body image. And my dissertation chair was like, you should do meditation. And it's kind of like a little skeptical, but again, the universe says like, you go in this direction. And I met Kristen Neff, who is the pioneer in this area of self-compassion, and she was on my dissertation committee. And she agreed to do research with me if I learned self-compassion. So it's really interesting because my incarnation cross in human design is the right angle cross of the vessel of love. So it's like even before I do human design, I've been led towards self-compassion and heart math. But the hardest thing is to love yourself. But the practice is really simple. All you need to do is treat yourself like a good friend. So when something you get, whether it's banana bread or you make some investment or you're afraid of something that isn't going the way you want, Instead of beating yourself up and saying, why is this happening to me? Or why did I make this mistake? You put your hand on your heart and you say, I'm here for me. Like you think, what would I tell my best friend who is going through this thing? And it's three simple elements. You're kind to yourself rather than judgmental.
Right now.
You understand common humanity. We all have banana bread spectacular mistakes. We all make mistakes. Things go wrong. I got breast cancer a couple years ago, and I'm the healthiest person I know, but stuff happens, right? And then there's mindfulness, which in the context of self-compassion, you ask, what do I need? That's the simplest part of practicing self-compassion. What do I need? I'm having a bad day and I still have those. And I think, gosh, what do I need? And it's usually I need to go to the beach. I need to hug. I need to take a nap. I need a snack. I need to, have some water. What do I need? And so, but it's a practice. The
Yes.
more you practice, the stronger the self-compassion muscle gets. And then the manifestation piece, because I know you're big on manifestation, is when you start to love yourself, because self-compassion is kind of the how of self-love. It gives you this roadmap to really elevating that self-love. You stop doing the things that insult your soul and you start to attract what's in your best interest. And I have to say, all the clients I've worked with, they said the one thing, Dr. Ellen, that you've helped me the most on is truly self-compassion. So that's where I start. If you want that, you can, just contact me on my website, the Midlife Whisperer. I'm happy to look at that piece of how you're treating yourself. And I rarely meet a woman who is kinder to herself than she is to her friends and her family. And so that's the piece that is really hard, which is so ironic, right? Isn't it ironic that we're so hard on ourselves, but we think we need to be hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up to motivate us to success. The research shows that it's demotivational because again, that's that cortisol. When
Right, right,
cortisol is elevated, we can't think straight. We manifest diddly squat. If we're in fight and flight, we're going to manifest more stress,
right now.
right? Instead of abundance, peace, love, all of those things that we truly want in life.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I'm so passionate about language, and you are too. I have transformed my language from mistake to misstep. Mistake, like, there's a metal piece in the ground. We can see it. It's firm. Misstep, we're still walking. We're still walking. So you took an off ramp. Okay. You took an off ramp, look around, probably scenic, get back on, right? And this misstep connotes stepping is pretty normal. And so I'm really embracing that. And hopefully we can all be diligent in our lives. You see the airlines spend billions of dollars on safety. And when the recording of the pilot comes on, it doesn't say, men, put your own oxygen masks on first. Women, took a look at everyone around you, stand up, the people in front of you, take your seatbelt off, look around you, the people behind you as far as you can see. If you still have oxygen, put your mask on. No, no, they do not. And so when we think about it like that, we're like, well, of course, that saves lives. It saves our lives, women. And so I couldn't agree with Dr. Ellen more. I'm sorry to opine. Let's talk about, in closing, because the time has just flown by as I knew it would, and we will have you back to dig further. How about how you deal with women who start gaining weight, they're tired and so forth, and not sleeping so good? Where do you start to get the woman back on track or on track for the first time, perhaps?
Yeah, I start with self-love, which might sound really strange, but in my early of my career when I was, dietitian, personal trainer, I mean, I still have those modalities that I use. It was all about beat your body up and then you'll love your body and yourself when you have the perfect body. And we never got there because again, there's this midlife, the old ways of working, the tons and tons of cardio, cutting back on your calories. What happens is, again, that increases stress and appetite goes up, cortisol around the middle. So we start with the self-love, and then I really start with, it's a whole foods plant-based diet. So like if this is your plate, if people who are watching or if you're not watching, if you're listening, imagine your plate, the top half of your plate, produce, 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 whatever you want, carrots, celery, lettuce. And we have to get away from this idea that it's like we're punishing ourselves by eating healthy. I don't eat healthy for punishing myself. I eat healthy because I want to feel good. And I actually like the way healthy food tastes. So half of your plate's produce. Your protein is about the size of your palm. So 4 or 6 ounces of, some lean meat, could be beans, could be tofu, could be chicken breast, fish, beef, whatever you want. And then the carbohydrates about the size of your fist. So that's your plate. So we keep it really simple. And also I help my clients, plan out. You got to go food shopping. You can't like come home at 5 o'clock, be stressed out. You pour the glass of wine. The teenagers have left the pizza in the fridge with a half a box of, ice cream. And all of a sudden you've had the wine, your blood sugar goes down and then all bets are off. You've got to plan, but you've got to start out of doing it because I love myself and I love my body and I love my midlife body that's not, perfect, but it's still, you've got 32 trillion cells all trying to keep you alive. Like the human body is amazing. So you start with self-love, gentle nutrition. The truth is, Deborah, that 99% of my clients, and if you're listening, is probably, we know how to eat right. We know we should be eating more, vegetables, a whole food, plant-based diet. You can call it Mediterranean, you can call it DASH, but that's the way we want to really start with the produce. It could be a stir fry, it could be a salad, it could be in your soup. And then the other piece is, understanding your appetite, listening to when you're hungry and when you're full. I mean, I could get on a bandwagon about Ozempic. I think for some people it can be a tool, but it stops your appetite. Appetite's a healthy thing. It's the on-off switch for how much we need to eat. We need to start trusting. You need to trust your appetite that your body knows how much that it needs, particularly if you're eating high fiber. So fiber keeps you full, adding in some protein, adding in some healthy fats, having plenty of water to stay hydrated. Sometimes we're actually dehydrated and we think it's thirst. Carrying snacks, I don't go anywhere without, an apple, handful of almonds, maybe, a healthy bar, because, sometimes we get hungry. And then there's this other piece, and this is where the self-compassion comes in. I would say most of my clients are emotional eaters. And
Yes.
it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just that you've been taught to regulate your nervous system when you're stressed out. And we talked about this already. You reach for the snacks, the Chardonnay, and the screens because you want to feel better. You want those dopamine hits. That's that neurotransmitter of reward. What I teach is the self-compassion piece, which is what do I really need right now? If you're not physically hungry, if you're not sure, set a timer, wait 20 minutes. Physical hunger is actually felt in the body and it won't go away. So eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, and take care of your beautiful emotional self. So if you're stressed out, what do I really need right now? Maybe I really need to do a few minutes of stretching or yoga or go for a walk or get a hug. So I actually have people make a list of all the ways you want to take care of yourself. And then when you're reaching for the food, what do I really need right now? Maybe it's just hand on heart and a little breathing, exhalation longer than the inhalation to calm down that stress and, a fight and flight response. So it's learning self-compassion, it's sensible nutrition, and it's really regulating your emotions. And this is something I look at when I do that midlife radiance assessment. You can get it on my website, sit down and I look at, where are you at with your body? How is your energy? How are your eating habits? How's your sleep? You had mentioned sleep, and that can get messed up because of hormones. You need good sleep hygiene. Again, turning off screens, lowering lights, do something relaxing. You don't want to watch the news 5 minutes before you go to sleep,
Right,
right?
right.
And
Uh,
you have to see, sometimes I help people a little bit with supplements that can help you, relax. Movement's super important, and it doesn't have to be killing yourself at the gym, finding a regular source of movement that works for you, hopefully doing a little strength training and then managing that stress because when you're stressed out, you tend to overeat, you tend to gain weight around the midsection, which is what happens anyway when estrogen goes down. So it's really, I think my work has evolved over 30 years. You kind of asked me about my journalism and everything, but I incorporate everything that I know, all of the science, the being a dietitian for 30 years, a trainer, a PhD psychologist, but then bringing in the soul of how do I bring my sense of passion and purpose into this so that I want to feel my best, so that
right.
I can do my work in the world, so I can be here for my grandkids, so I can be healthy at 100. And I think that's where you come in too, because let's face it, you need a financial stability in order to make your next chapter awesome.
Right now, right now. Well, this has been rich, rich beyond words. And I want you to tell us, Dr. Ellen, what's the best way for our people to reach you?
You can go to my website, themidlifewhisperer.com, or just Google the Midlife Whisperer. I am the only midlife whisperer. And if you're interested in that midlife radiance assessment, we sit down for 45 minutes, totally complimentary. To really, it's my gift for midlife women to help them look at the various areas in their life, their mind, their body, their purpose, their abundance, and to see how you can, if you're at a 2 or 3 in areas, how do I be a 10 or even 11? What does that look like? So just go to themidlifewhisperer.com. I would love to meet you.
Well, I can assure you this will be a worthwhile endeavor, and I will do it myself as well. So, thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Allen, carving out time from your very busy schedule and for coming to us from Costa Rica. And thank you, viewing audience, for being with us and for finding your path to wholeness. And that includes that self-love, the acceptance, and the loving. And sometimes that involves forgiving, most always, and forgiving ourselves, cleaning that slate, driving more and more energy towards neural pathways that are healthy, wholesome, and obviously life-giving. So thank you for joining us on the We Can Do It Women show. Remember, I see you. I value you. And your greatest chapter is just beginning. If today's episode sparks something in you, I invite you to check out the Women's Rising Wealth Club, where we get together, we talk about how to make money, and join us in Costa Rica because this is going to be an epic way for us to refuel, retreat, and become even more of who we are meant to be. And until next time, I'm Debra Morrison, and pay attention to your money. It will surely pay you back. Thank you so much.